Cheeseheads. Get on your feet. It's Curd and Long. Hosted by Sparky, Fifer, and Ryan Horvath.
Welcome in another edition of Curd and Long. Steve Sparky, Fifer with you. Wisconsin Sports Daily, weekday afternoons, 2 to 5 on 1250 AM. The Fan. Ryan Horvath off this week, off to yet another wedding. I feel like everybody he knows is getting married in the same month. Joining us now is a guy that I've never got to do anything with media-wise ever in my life. Lance Allan, WTMJ sports anchor Lance Allan. Follow him on Twitter at Lance Allan. You follow me at Sparky Radio. Lance Allan, this is pretty cool, man, because in all of our time together, we never got to do radio together, not because I didn't try, because I tried. It just was not allowed to occur. Lance, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. I like the theme song music. It sounds like a rip-off version of In the Club by 50 Cent or 50 Cent or however you want to say it. So that was pretty sweet coming in.
Yeah, corporate came up with that theme music. I take no credit. They just gave us something. We said, okay, fine. Sounds good to us. We'll go with it. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this Green Bay Packers team, obviously, because you know about the Packers as much as anybody else. When it comes to Jordan Love, this Trevor Lawrence contract, I said on the air that nobody was smiling more than Jordan Love in the state of Wisconsin the day that Trevor Lawrence signed a deal averaging $55 million a year. First off, the Jared Goff deal averaging, $53 million a year. I was like, holy crap. And then Lawrence gets his deal. Meanwhile, Tua isn't signed. Jordan's not signed. Dak Prescott's really got to be getting excited as these contracts keep coming out. What was your first reaction when you heard about this deal for Trevor Lawrence?
My first reactions were he's going to get paid, and all the people who a little while ago, Sparky, and you follow this pretty closely, all the people that I said, well, the benchmark at that point was Daniel Jones, even though the Giants want to clearly probably move on from him. 4 years, $160 million at the time, so $40 million, and people were laughing at that. Jordan, that they would have thought you would have thought I said, the worst thing ever or whatever.
Right.
Now it's up to $55 million, so it just keeps going up and up and up. And so it's either going to be Tua or it's going to be Jordan Love that's going to be next, in my opinion. It's going to be one or the other. And you said it. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is a very good quarterback, number one overall pick. Some would say he's maybe underachieved, a little bit because of the lofty draft status or whatever. So 5 years, $275 million, $142 million guaranteed. Those are all your benchmarks. And whatever you want to say, if it's more average per year, if it's more total money, if it's more guaranteed money, whatever it is, the bar is going to be raised, whether it's Jordan Love or Tua next. But I honestly think one of those two is going to be next.
So this is the thing, right? So Tua and Jordan Love represented by the same agency, not the same agents, but the same agency of agents, right? David Mulgada is the guy that has Jordan Love. So I would love to know those conversations between Tua and his agent, Jordan Love and his agent, as far as, so which one of us is more important? Like, which one of us gets to wait longer before we make our deal? And I would like to know, what was the Packers' original offer and what was Jordan Love's original offer of what he wanted? Because Lance, I'm telling you, I can't think the number was north of $55 million a year from Jordan Love on that first of, this is kind of what I was thinking when they said, oh, no. It couldn't have been more than $55 million a year. Could it have been?
I don't think so. I don't think so either. But you maybe can't totally fault the Packers on that either, because I think, Sparky, one of the things was, when they signed that 1 year contract extension, that a lot of people were like, well, they had faith in him to say, you're our guy. We're going to bump you up. We're going to give you money, this, that, whatever. I thought that was smart at the time. And I would think that talks have been ongoing. So, and we don't know, like you said, I would love to be a fly on the wall and be like, okay, so did the Packers give him a generous offer? And they said, no, we're going to wait this out because they knew some dominoes would fall. And the Love camp is playing this really well. Or, I have a hard time believing that, I think the regime under Brian Gutekunst has been pretty fair about doling out contracts. Russ Ball's been very good as far as the capologist and things like that. Now that they're cleaning up the cap, I have a hard time believing that they just simply fell asleep at the wheel and thought, didn't think that these numbers were going to keep going up and up and up. But, the Love camp is playing, I hate to say a pretty good game of poker, but clearly they're letting this ride out kind of like a chess match. And they're clearly winning at this point.
They're really going to win. Dak Prescott's really going to win because if Trevor Lawrence is 55, Tua and Jordan Love are going to be around 55 to 60, which means Dak Prescott may get 65 on average, which
And
is complete and utter insanity, Lance.
No. I mean, very good quarterback, but I think we've seen time and time again where he falls a little bit short. So, I mean, it's crazy money. But at some point you got to say enough's yeah. Do you have the guts to say enough is enough and go with a different quarterback? Because there are only, as we've seen, there are only a handful of quarterbacks. I mean, you asked the Raiders this question. They didn't get their quarterback in the draft. They would probably love to have one of these guys, fall in their lap, or whomever it is, Sparky. I mean, obviously, there's at least a handful of teams that would love to have either a quarterback of the future or a guy that is their franchise quarterback. So yeah, look what the Falcons did in the offseason. They went nuts, and they're going to pay the price for it just because they didn't feel like they had a guy and they wanted a guy. So you either have a guy or you don't have a guy.
That's exactly right. And the Packers have been fortunate to have a guy for about 30 years. And now it appears they might have another guy. I want to go back to what you said a little bit earlier. You said you brought up Daniel Jones, the quarterback with the Giants, who had a year. They paid him, and then he went back to being Daniel Jones again. Jordan Love had a half a season, not even really a year. Now, his numbers are unbelievable for the year. To think that it wasn't all that great in the first half, and a lot of those numbers came in the second half, makes it even more crazy about how good those numbers ended up being at the end, over 4,000 yards and all of that. What makes you confident that this isn't going to be another Daniel Jones, where he was great in the second half, and now we come back in the next year and maybe he's not as good as what he looked?
So I'm going to try to put my green and gold pom-poms and my green and gold shaded glasses down, Sparky, and look at this about as objectively as I can. Okay, if you want to start with and a lot of times we'll start with the positive, but hey, we're the unwashed media, so let's start with the negative first. The negative is that I think Jordan Love, his touch on deep passes got better as the season went along.
For sure.
That was the reason why he was at, Utah State, a mid to lower level D1. And the reason why there were some questions about him is his touch on the deep pass and things like that or whatever. I think it got appreciably better as the season went on. I still think that's something that he's going to have to work on going forward. But I think his decision-making got a lot better. I don't think, and I think the advanced stats kind of prove this stuff out, that I think earlier in the year, he probably didn't make as many good decisions, whether he's pulling the ball down or you're not getting the right read, whatever. At the end of the year, I think there was a lot to like there as far as going to the hot receiver. I mean, Bo Melton being your number one first 100-yard receiver of the whole year in the Minnesota game, I think speaks volumes. And it didn't matter, the previous quarterback would always say, hey, I spread the ball around, whoever's open, whatever. We all know he loved Devontae Adams. He loved Jordy Nelson. He loved certain receivers. Sparky, what impressed me is that if you were open, if you're Luke Musgrave and there's nobody within 20 yards of you and you're basically like trying to keep your footing because the ball is literally floating to you, he's going to get the ball to you. Or Romeo Doubs. Or, if Christian Watson, obviously you can get over his hamstring injuries, Bo Melton, Tucker Kraft, this, that, whatever. The ball was literally going to whomever was available and open. Jaden Reed, obviously, I think is a difference maker as well. So to me, his decision-making got a lot better. And I think sometimes we almost understate the difficulty of playing the NFL quarterback position. I don't care how long you've sat behind someone. It takes, if you want to use the prism of history, Brett Favre, when he replaced, Don Majkowski, they were 9-7 that year, but it was up and down like a roller coaster. People have very short memories, Sparky, and forget that Aaron Rodgers' first full season as starter, 2008, even after he had that phenomenal game against the Cowboys in 2007, when he came in for Brett and almost led him back to victory over Tony Romo and the Cowboys in Dallas. 2008, they went 6-10. Not that the record is solely on the quarterback, but obviously he had a lot to learn. And then 2009 is when you saw glimpses of it. And then 2010 is when they went to the Super Bowl. Same thing with Jordan Love. I don't care that he sat behind, Rodgers for 3 years. There was a preseason that was blown out. There were a lot of different factors in his development. And then finally the Packers, kind of like what they had with Rodgers behind Favre, realized in practice, hey, we see glimpses of this guy getting it, and he can play. He just needs to get out there and play. And once he got more opportunities, and once they figured a few things out, and after they got over the 2-5 start and all that stuff, I think there was a lot to like there. Does that make him perfect? No. Do they have a tougher schedule? Absolutely. Like, you look, if you just look on paper as to what the Packers could be this year, they could go 10-7, 11-6, and have a very good year, because I think they have a very difficult schedule. I think the division is tougher, in my opinion, which wasn't the case the last couple of years or whatever. So, yeah, I think there's a lot to like there. And I do think that he is an ascending player, not a descending player, not a player that is just going to tread water. And let's face facts. I think he can make more plays with his feet than Daniel Jones. I think he sees the field better than Daniel Jones. And the way it looks, he probably has a better arm than Daniel Jones. So I think all those factors come into it.
I think another factor, and maybe I'm overblowing it a little bit, but I think part of the reason he took such a jump that year 2 to year 3 is because Tom Clement showed back up in that locker room and said, I'll come in and, and I thought at the time, guilty as charged. Yeah. When they brought him in, I was like, this is a Rodgers play. Here we go again. And I was like, maybe he's, he can help out Jordan Love while he's here, but this is to keep Rodgers happy. That's all this is about. And then Rodgers leaves, he stays. I was like, whoa, okay, this is really good now. Let's see how good he really is. Because Rodgers has kissed his butt forever saying how great he was, and I really wasn't buying into it, to be honest with you. And then Clements gets a hold of Jordan Love, and you could just see the steady improvement going forward. And when LaFleur was able to keep him for at least one more year going into next year, that made me feel even better. And you talk about a lot of these other quarterbacks, say Jalen Hurts. I mean, look at his coaching staff that keeps changing. Steichen leaves, goes to Indianapolis, and he goes back to what he was. And now they're changing the staff again, and he's going to have another voice in his ear trying to coach him. And Sirianni's an offensive-minded guy, and he's not even going to be the one doing it again. I think having that stability on that coaching staff with LaFleur and Clements, and even LaFleur just going forward, is a huge factor for a quarterback. Brett didn't maybe necessarily have it like that, but it was pretty much the same system the entire time he was there. He didn't have to change systems. Rodgers pretty much had McCarthy the entire time, and then did have to change a little bit with LaFleur towards the end. But that stability is something that a lot of quarterbacks in the National Football League never get, Lance.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a good factor. I think, Aaron Jones coming back after the injury in week 1, I think was a big factor. I think you're also seeing the true Matt LaFleur offense. And Sparky, for all the greatness of Aaron Rodgers, there were times where he wanted to throw the ball 20, 30, 40 yards downfield. And now what you're seeing is, okay, Jordan Love can do that. And if Christian Watson is healthy, he is a difference maker and a game breaker and a stretch the field guy downfield. Same thing with Jaden Reed. So they can play that style of ball if needed. But you also saw matchup-based stuff. Where do? You go to the tight end. You have wheel routes to the running backs. You get other receivers involved on slant routes, things like that. Whatever the matchup is, that's what they go with. Not that Jordan Love can't check out of plays, not that he can't audible, not that he can't do certain things. I'm just saying I think what you're seeing now is more of the true Matt LaFleur, Shanahan-based, influenced, whatever offense. And I think you can be successful at that with a quarterback who, obviously doesn't always check out of plays and audible and this and that and whatever, and just finds the open matchups. And I think that's a big factor in all this.
What kind of number do you think he ends up with here before we take our first quick timeout? Jordan Love. I'm going to say he's going to come in somewhere around 57 to 60 million. I think he's going to get more than Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, he's probably going to get a shade more, or I should say, the other thing is, okay, 142 million guaranteed. We all know NFL contracts, it's sad to say, Sparky, but if you sign the contract and literally a month later you blow your knee out, you basically only get the guaranteed money. So I think the guaranteed money will be anywhere from 145 to 150, and that's probably as important as anything as far as this contract.
No chance any of us thought this was coming before the year. There's just no chance we were talking this.
What's your guaranteed money, man? I know you signed big bonuses and stuff like that. What's your guaranteed money?
I don't know. I would be willing to go more than that. I'd be willing to maybe go full bonus, but it's going to have to be significantly less. Like I'm not giving you 55 to 57 with a fully guaranteed contract like Kirk Cousins has signed. You want to do 45? I'll go full. I'll guarantee the whole thing for you. but I'm not going 55 to 60 year fully guaranteed. Absolutely not. No. So if he wants a fully guaranteed deal or more guaranteed money, then it's going to be less money per year.
I like the fact that you and I will work for like a sub sandwich and maybe a bag of chips or something like that. And that's our bonus.
Yeah, a couple double stacks at Wendy's. I'm in. Let's roll. Talking with Lance Allan, WTMJ Sports Anchor. Take a quick time out. Come back. Other side. We're talking about this Packers wide receiving core. See how Lance Allan stacks him up and see what he thinks of this whole Jordan Love thing and saying, it's okay that we don't have a true number one. It's fine. It will be fine. We'll be good. We'll talk to Lance Allan more about that coming up. Kurt and Long, download on your Odyssey app. Wherever you download your favorite podcast at. Check out the video portion of this on the Odyssey Sports YouTube page. Back after this. Hey, it's Sparky, Fifer, Kurt, and Long. Check out the Wisconsin Sports Daily weekday afternoons from 2 to 5 on 1250 AM The Fan. Stream us on your Odyssey app. He is Lance Allan, finally getting to do some media together from TMJ for Sports Anchor over there. Follow him on Twitter at Lance Allan. I have been waiting years to work with this man doing something, and finally it happens in 2024. Well, I've been working on this since 2005, I think. So not 20 years exactly, but pretty close. We got there.
Wait, Sparky, you just gotta. I taught you patience, man.
Yeah, I had patience. Yes, I worked hard for this. Okay, so let's talk about the Packers wide receiving core. So first things first, because I've brought this up. If you said to Jordan Love, "Hey man, I'm gonna have to trade a couple of your wide receivers, number one pick, and pick whoever you want. Say it's Christian Watson has to go, and Jaden Reed has to go, and it's a 1, but we're going to get you Devontae Adams." Doesn't he say yes to that?
No.
Doesn't he say yes and go, hell yes, I'm in Devontae Adams. Bring him to me. I know what that's all about. Yes, I want Devontae Adams. And I lost Lance Allan. Oh, man. We were going so well. Oh, he's back. Hold on a second. Oh, okay. There we are. You're back. Thank God.
You froze up. Yeah. You were like going nuts, and then you froze up.
All right, go ahead.
So, no offense, I love Devontae Adams, but you don't go backwards, Sparky. I mean, those guys are younger. Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, they're game breakers, and I know people are going to be like, "Oh, you're insane. What do you know?" But Christian Watson, if he ever gets the hamstring thing figured out, I mean, he has a different gear that nobody else practically on that team has. And Jaden Reed finds his way to get open and is fearless. Like I watched, obviously this is Big Ten country, so you watch a little bit of Michigan State and you see him and whatever. He has surpassed everything I thought he could be, whatever you want to say already. I mean, he just is, to me, is very impressive how he finds soft spots in the zone, gets open, whatever you want to say. I think they are blessed right now with a very deep receiving core. I don't know. I mean, barring like the Justin Jeffersons and guys like that of the world, do you have to have a number one? I don't think I think the Matt LaFleur offense is like Kyle Shanahan with the 49ers. It's more matchup based. Some games Ayuk is going to get the ball more. Some games Samuel's going to get the ball more. Some games that they're going to throw to McCaffrey or, whatever. I think that, and for right or for wrong, like there might be a game where somebody says that I am a complete clown, and if they would have had a number one receiver, they wouldn't have been shut down and blah, 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 whatever. I think Matt LaFleur deep down loves the fact, Sparky, that he's got multiple weapons. You can't solely concentrate on one guy. The Brett Favre to Sterling Sharp feeding him 12 times a game, or Rodgers going to Devontae or Jordy all the time for 9-10 catches a game, or whatever it is. I think he loves the fact he keeps the opposing defense guessing. Plus, they have a legit 2 tight end set for the first time in how long? I mean, they've got 2 second-year guys going in their second season. Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave. You got to pick your poison, man. How many teams have linebackers that can run with not one but 2 dudes if you line up in a 2 tight end set? So I think, to me, and you could people can light me up. You can cue this up. You can throw this all over social media. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I definitely think that was part of their success as the season went on, especially late, is you didn't know completely who to key on.
This is the thing. I agree with you. I would love to have this wide receiving core as is continue through going forward for the next several years.
Mm-hmm.
However, these guys eventually are going to want to get paid. Now, it works to the Packers' benefit, because if there's no true one And we're separating, balls, and it's changing every game like it did last year, where one game it's Jaden Reed, the next day Dontavian Wicks, then Romeo Dobbs comes back on the scene again and he does something. And then Musgrave a big game, fine. But when it comes time to get paid, it's going to work to the Packers' benefit, because they're just going to be like, okay, so here are all the number one wide receivers in the NFL. Your numbers aren't close to these. So you're going to get paid this. They're going to go out into free agency and they're going to try and go get paid. And it's going to work against them too. I just think over the next couple of years, eventually somebody is going to kind of separate themselves from this lot. Now, most talented, I agree with you, Christian Watson. Can he stay healthy? We'll find out. Go to Madison, you do all this stuff on your hamstring. I mean, look, the guy behind me is Clay Matthews. Had problems with his hamstrings forever and a day. Now, I'll give LaFleur credit for this. He redid that whole idea of what they were doing for, strength and conditioning and so forth. Went and got a dude from San Francisco, said, come on in. And they've changed how they warm up. They're changing a lot of different stuff. So he didn't just sit there status quo like every other regime has in Green Bay with the same dudes running it and said, oh, we're good. It's just bad luck. No, we're going to try and do something about it. So that part I admire. I think by the end of this year, there will be a true number one wide receiver. And I think there will be a guy that he likes going to in big moments and big situations. Now, is that Watson? Is that Dobbs? Because he definitely likes going to Romeo Dobbs, but Dobbs isn't the big play guy necessarily like Christian Watson. And there's a group of people that like Dontavian Wicks. So, Lance Allen, I ask you, stack them up. How do you stack them up as far as, most talented down? Who do you like kind of 1 through 4, 1 through 5 in that wide receiver room?
Yeah, I think it's Watson and Reed, whether you want to say 1A and 1B or 2 number ones or whatever you want to say. I will say this from observation of covering the team, Sparky, and being on the field, preseason sideline, stuff like that. Not before last season, but the season before, when Jordan Love's developing rapport, whatever. Who did he come out with in warmups, pregame warmups, whatever, most of the time, if not all the time? It was Christian Watson. So he has a chemistry, a cohesion, or whatever. And you saw elements of that, whether it was in Philadelphia or whatever, certain games where Christian Watson was healthy. And that's why I think, if you could ever get that guy right and get him healthy, he's a difference maker. Kind of like you mentioned it, the guy over your shoulder, I know it drove people nuts sometimes with Clay Matthews, but the reason why you give those guys more chances than not is because they are special. They have special talent. They're game breakers, difference makers. There's only, as Ron Wolf taught a lot of us in the media, there are only a handful of them on a team. A lot of the other parts, no offense to certain players, a lot of the other pieces and parts you can interchange and flip out and things like that. But there's a handful of special individuals, and whether you like it or not, he's one of them. I think Jaden Reed has that innate ability to find a way to get open, whatever it is, man coverage, zone, slipping behind somebody, seeing a mismatch, having a linebacker on him, whatever it is. I think he is in that category as well. So whether you want to go 1-2, 1A, 1B, whatever. I thought you said something interesting that, sometimes he gets lost in the sauce, but Dontavian Wicks, even though he's young, really came on strong last year. And so I'm glad you reminded me of him, because it's Dobbs has the experience, but it might be Wicks just a shade ahead of him for that 3-4 or 3 spot, so to speak. Even though he's not prototypical size and all that stuff, like Bo Melton being the first 100-yard receiver, obviously there's something there as well. And they're just blessed with an abundance of riches at that position, not to mention, we already mentioned the tight ends. And then you talk to anybody who covered the Raiders, they know that Josh Jacobs can catch the ball in space and make things happen. And I think that's what they're hoping. A rookie running back, it's a little more dicey, but they're hoping for Marshawn Lloyd to come on sooner rather than later. And then you've got 2 guys in the backfield that can catch the ball on wheel routes, screen passes, whatever. I don't think Josh Jacobs, from what I've seen, can line up in the slot or line up like a receiver like Aaron Jones could. But I do think that he tends to either run over dudes or run around dudes a little more than what Aaron Jones did. So you have different factors in that equation as well.
People have seen Marshawn Lloyd in Green Bay at the mini camp. A lot of reporters with a lot of wows seeing his ability to shake and bake and kind of juke people a little bit here. He could be one that the Packer fans really like. And again, when that Josh Jacobs contract lands, they can get out after 1 year. They could get out after 2 years. So if Lloyd ends up being that guy, this does not have to be a long-term deal with Josh Jacobs.
I think the Packers viewed Lloyd as the best running back in the draft, in my opinion. And they feel like they got a steal in the third round. Now, obviously pass protection is huge. I always say, Sparky, if you're going to, and if the Packers do what we think they're going to do in this offseason or just before camp or at some point, back up the Brinks truck and shower Jordan Love with cash, well, if he's your guy, then what do? You got to go out and get a left tackle, and that's what they did with Morgan. Obviously, you got to protect Jordan Love's blind side. And then if you're a rookie, now, we can all say A.J. Dillon, he's not necessarily a guy that's a game breaker or gets away from people or whatever, but what he does do is pass protection. And so if a rookie wants to get on the field more and prove that you're more than just a every once in a while or one down player, you better be good at pass pro. So that to me is a big factor in all this as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that, too. Take a quick time out and come back. One more segment to go. I want to see where Lance Allen's head's at when it comes to any concerns he might have about this Packers team, because now we have a month off. Beat writers very excited. They get a vacation. They get to see their families. And then we come back to training camp, and then they don't see their kids again for like 8 months. So it's kind of a crazy thing being a Packer beat writer or a Brewers beat writer or Bucks beat writer from that matter. So we'll come back. We'll ask Lance Allen his concerns. That's straight ahead here. Curd and Long. Download us on your Odyssey app, or if you download your favorite podcast app, check us out. Video portion over there at the Odyssey Sports YouTube page. Curd and Long. Welcome back, Curd and Long, Steve Sparky Fifer, Wisconsin Sports Daily, weekday afternoons, 2 to 5 on 1250 AM The Fan. Follow me on Twitter at Sparky Radio. I have my guy, WTMJ sports anchor Lance Allen, with us. Follow him on Twitter at Lance Allen, talking about the Green Bay Packers as mini camps are done, OTAs are done. Now it's waiting for training camp to start here, July 22nd, I believe it's going to be, to kick off that first practice. All right, Lance, what concerns? Maybe you don't have any. What concerns might you have heading? You're laughing at me. I'm telling you, I've listened to media ask questions
I'm not laughing
for a long time, Lance. This is the most positive media group as far as how they ask the questions, how they phrase the questions, than I can remember in a long, long time. Like, everybody is juiced for this season to start right now.
I'm laughing because it's almost too good to be true. And
Right.
And so I think me as I'm not paid to be a cheerleader. I'm not paid to wave pom-poms. I don't wear, when people ask me, do you wear green and gold clothes? I go, well, I currently and right now and don't work for the team, but I do like Team Green. And they go, oh, you like the Packers? No, I like the team with the dead presidents and Benjamin Franklin. That's my team. That's the money team.
Right.
With respect to Floyd Mayweather. So obviously, I think Brian Gutekunst is very underrated and has done a phenomenal job, and the last 2 years in the draft and free agency and whatever has done really well. But he doesn't sign my paychecks. Neither does Matt LaFleur. I have good relationships with them, but that doesn't preclude me from criticizing things. So the reason why I laugh is because they have a tougher schedule. So arguably they could have, a similar record. Well, I think they'll probably be better than 9-8, but let's just say their record might not be appreciably better, and they might be a better team. And then the kicker situation, if you believe in Anders Carlson and you brought in competition, God bless America, that's great. But it's already maybe a little bit of a troubling sign to me, if not a lot of troubling sign, that you brought in Greg Joseph and you have a legitimate competition going into camp that after 1 year, you were like, okay, if we're in a lot of tight games, you gotta rely on that guy. And that guy might have cost you. I hate to pin it on one person, but he might have cost you the chance to beat the 49ers in San Francisco. So there's one concern right there, in my opinion. Another concern is, everybody wanted, Joe Barry out of Green Bay. And I'm not here to defend Joe Barry. I'm not here to sing Joe Barry's praises. But also, Sparky, I think you and I are smart enough to realize they had a lot of injuries on defense. They had a regressing Devondre Campbell. They had some infighting. And they had some safeties in the back end. Well, and obviously the Jair Alexander situation. And you had some safeties that, quite frankly, I'm not going to totally name names, But come on, Sparky, did they have safeties in the back end that were legitimate, like first team all, second team all, or even like, God bless them, but you are going to get lit up. I don't care what you do. You are going to get lit up on the back end. Like when all the people would say, they don't blitz enough. Well, you want to get smoked on the back end all the time, or, they're playing prevent defense, which prevents you from winning. Well, yeah, because they have guys that can only cover for a limited amount of time, especially in the back end. So, okay, on paper, you are better with Xavier McKinney. All things are is, okay, how did the Giants let that guy get away? He's only 24. He's a locker room leader. I think that was a big plus in the Brian Gutekunst department right
For
there.
sure. Yep.
But that said, Jeff Hafley now has the tools to have a top 10 defense. So if I'm going to be Mr. Tough Guy in the media, I'm going to say this is the year where even Dom Capers, as much as he got lit up, I think the year they went to the Super Bowl, weren't they ranked 9th or 10th overall? At least they were in the top 10. This is the year where they have so many number one overall or first round picks. They have so, like last year, the stat was 8 first round picks and it didn't materialize. So part of it was, I think guys were confused with Joe Barry, but I'm also not here to crucify Joe Barry because I think between injuries and limited personnel, they didn't have nearly as good of a defense as what everybody thought they had. So, I think there were times where Rashawn Gary was really good and coming back from that knee injury, and there were times where he kind of disappeared, and they expect more to him. I think Lucas Van Ness had flashes last year, but he was a rookie, so it was some good, some bad. I think they're deep in the defensive line. I think they have more capability in the linebacking core. And I think they have a pretty strong secondary. But now they got to go out and do it. They just can't talk about it.
Yep, 100%. Well said. That's my guy. Lance Allan. Follow him on Twitter at Lance Allan. I'm C. Sparky Fifer. Follow me at Sparky Radio. Another edition.
Not all happy talk here, Sparky. I'm going to bring it. You know it.
I love it. This is great. I got no complaints over here. Follow me on Twitter at Sparky Radio as well. My friend, thank you so much for coming on. That was as fun as I thought it was going to be. So that was cool stuff, man. Thank you very much.
Hey, hopefully I don't get labeled as the Joe Barry apologist and whatever, but like you know me well enough. That's why you wanted me on. I speak truth. So I wasn't like the biggest fan, but I also think it was easy for him to be the fall guy or certain, inefficiencies, deficiencies, whatever you want to say. There's a lot of factors in that.
Love it. Have a good one. There he is. Lance Allan, C. Sparky Fifer. Kurt Along, downloading your Odyssey app. Revere, download your favorite podcast app. Check us out on the Odyssey Sports YouTube page.